Hi Tarot Tribe and lovelies. Welcome to this new series that I'm doing. So I'm hoping to get this done once a week, once a month, depending on how much time I've got and how many questions and things like that come to my inspiration. But I've got quite a few in line. So in this series, I'm actually going to go through my spiritual journey and some of the things that I have experienced or people have asked me questions about, and just sharing a little bit more about my journey. And I did a My Tarot story before, but this is more on, I guess, the witchy spiritual side, as well as my tarot journey as well, because it's all kind of one thing really. It's my life. So if you have any questions you want to know, or you have any subjects you want me to talk about, then you can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or put a comment below. So today I wanted to start with pretty much what I feel is the basics, is what do I call myself? How do I describe my spiritual path? Where am I on my spiritual path? And which is a pretty big subject. Now, I'm not one for just sticking a label on someone and sitting them in the corner and going, well, you're this and off you go. Because we are changing dynamic beings. We may not be, well, we definitely aren't who we are from 5 years ago, and we're not going to be who we are in 5 years' time. That's the beauty about having a human existence. We are forced to change. So this labels, they change, okay? So let's not get too hung up on any label that I talk about or labels that I associate or identify at the moment with myself. It's just an easy way of expressing and identifying what feels like home to me and how I perceive my journey. So I wanted to start with some really basic sort of categories. And if you know this already, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to go through this with people who don't know. I've done a little diagram. Okay, so paganism is what we call anyone who attunes with natural cycles, with the cycles of the moon and the sun and the seasons. And this has come from the words that we used to use. Pagan would be someone who lived of the earth. And let's think about it. When we're talking about our traditions and our ancestors, they lived on the earth. They lived on the earth. They lived specifically from the bounty that they could get from the earth. They didn't have Costco or Whole Foods to go to and hunt and gather there, although that can feel like quite the experience. But they didn't have those places to go. They had to be aligned with the seasons and with the herds moving and the moon phases, because a lot of planting was done when the moon was right for different harvests. So pagans were all just people who lived by the cycle of the earth. And what that means now from a more modern perspective is that these are people who have chosen a path under the pagan umbrella that is aligned and attuned with the earth. We try to get as in touch as possible with the earth. And that's why a lot of people who are pagan and identify with paganism are such activists and advocates for cruelty-free with animals and for environmental impact, because we realize that our Mother Earth, Gaia, is a living entity, and we need to take care of her. We are her stewards. We are not her. We don't own her. We are just borrowing her for the generations to come. So that's paganism. So if we're looking at pagan as the first umbrella term, and then underneath that I've got Druidism, Asatru, and Wicca. So these are three of many. I just didn't have all the paper and all the time to kind of go through all of them. There are a stack of pagan beliefs. Many lands have their own pagan belief system. So these are just a few I wanted to share with you. So Druidry, which is the reimagined and inspired by the Celtic lore, and then Asatru, which is by the Norse, by Viking, and I know quite a few very well. And then Wicca, which is one that has really had a huge resurgence over the last 20 years, is another one. And then under that, we have the different traditions of these as well. So Wicca has got Gardnerian, Dianic, Alexandrian, Carillion, Fairy. There are so many different types of Wiccans around as well. So this is how basically the training that they've had and the tradition that they follow. For example, a Dianic witch is usually female or identifies with female energy, feminine energy, and is usually in a circle with no men. So that's very much a Dianic witch. Or a Gardnerian, which has been traditionally trained and initiated into Gardnerian witchcraft, which is Mr. Gerald Gardner, one of the men who is very responsible for bringing Wicca into this millennium. So so we're bringing it forward, after the war. So these are the different types, some of the different types of Wicca, and there are a ton of it as well. So if you type in the types of Wicca, you're going to get a lot more of them. I just wanted to give you again some examples. And then on the side here, on the side there, we have witchcraft and magic. And witchcraft and magic is not mutually exclusive to paganism or Wicca. You do not need to be pagan to practice witchcraft or magic, and you don't have to practice witchcraft and magic and be Wiccan. So because this is a system of magic, it is a system of affecting change, it is a system of self-embedment. So you don't have to be doing those things. You don't have to sling magic and learn those things if you want to be pagan, and vice versa. So that's why it is separate. It's not the same thing. So when someone says that they are a hedge witch, they don't necessarily have any training in Wicca. They don't necessarily identify at all with any of that. So that's just to be aware of. So where do I see myself on this kind of little playing board of different titles? So I call myself an eclectic witch. So I am Wiccan. So you can use that term witch if you're Wiccan, and you can use that term if you're not. Because again, witchcraft has got nothing to do with Wicca. It's not exclusive to Wicca. So I call myself an eclectic witch, and that is an eclectic Wiccan witch if I really want to get technical, but we'll call it that for now. So I have been initiated into a tradition of Wicca. I have been took on a role as a high priestess of a circle back in Australia, and our circle is not traditional Alexandrian or Gardnerian, so there are some elders in the community who would probably never recognize us as a working circle, or would never recognize me as a high priestess, but whatever, that's their bag, not mine. So again, there's that whole thing of like titles becoming this whole big thing in any community, and it's basically bullshit. You want to be a high grand wizard of dually dads and awesomeness, then you go fucking right ahead, and don't let anyone tell you you can't. It's just BS as far as I'm concerned with all this crap. You will know in the person's worth and work and vibe and what they do in their community as to whether they are worth their salt and not worth their title, because titles are just, I love this. An old boss of mine told me, we're talking about titles, and he was talking about job titles, and he said titles are just what the person perceives that they do, and it's true. We make this stuff up as humans, so it is just a perception of what we believe, and then whether that perception is mirrored back and acknowledged by other people, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. So anyway, that was a little bit of a rant on that. So I am Wiccan. I am a witch. I also practice magic, and I have done so for many years. And I am eclectic. So eclectic, meaning that I take from a number of traditions and I take what resonates with me and I incorporate it into my practice and I leave the rest. I do not have a strict code of you must celebrate this at this time, this date. And look, I tried, folks, I really did, and so did my circle, and it just did not work for us. Did not work for me. I think this is happening more and more in the pagan community and the Wiccan community as well. We want to go with what feels right. We want to explore different avenues. We want to connect with different elders and different traditions and experience different things. And I don't want anyone telling me that I can't work with a deity from a different pantheon because it's not the one that I was initiated into. I'm sorry, I'm just not that way. I'm greedy. I want to be able to do whatever I want. So for example, I do have a patron god and goddess, and that's going to be another video when I talk about patron gods and goddesses and how you can find them and get them and how that whole thing works. So I do have a patron god and goddess, and they are from a specific pantheon. They are from a specific tradition, but that doesn't mean that I only work with them exclusively. So again, we'll have to look at that more in a different video. I don't adhere to a strict wheel of the year. I mean, I do in regards to the Wiccan wheel of the year, but it's not the same thing every single time. So for example, some of the circles that we've done, I've done in the past, have called on different gods to in different traditions. We have done different celebrations. Sometimes we've done a sweat lodge, and sometimes we've done a drumming circle. I've walked labyrinths. I've called down the moon. I've, been and done an OTO sun ceremony. I have done a whole bunch of stuff. So it's more about allowing my spirit to experience all these things and take in what I really love and what vibes and resonates with me, and leaving the rest of it and saying, you know what, it's just not for me. It's always about being a place of being respectful, and saying that what works for you works for you, and what works for me works for me. I do have the framework and the foundation of Wicca. So I know my circle castings, my quarter calls. I know my wheel of the year. I have got a whole bunch of the history, all that sort of stuff that I learnt is invaluable to me, and I truly believe that if you're looking to start a path like that, then do your year in a day. Do read up, become well read, read a lot of different things, think critically. My God, please freaking think critically, because there is a lot of crap out there, but there is also a lot of really good stuff out there. If you can find a mentor or a teacher that works for you, then that's great. Some people don't and can't, and I found it really difficult at the start as well. So I think that those bones and those foundations of Wicca are really important, because it gives you an idea of what you can and cannot incorporate into that. And it's the same with tarot. So I say to people, I learned and I teach and I read the Rider-Waite-Smith, because for me, that's the bones of what I really love. I love that system. It's the system for me. And then everything else I add on top of that is just adding to the body of tarot that I love. So I just adorn it with other things and I flesh it out and all that kind of stuff. So it's the same with my spiritual path. Wicca is the base of my spiritual path and has been for many, many years. And then everything else is kind of like the fun, great stuff on top of it. And that's how I have become an eclectic Wiccan witch. It happened in the space of being Wiccan first, and then obviously practicing witchcraft along with my practice and bringing in divination. And then once I was comfortable with the foundations, then I moved into looking at different pantheons, different practices, different path workings, and adding that to my toolkit and adding that to my spiritual experience. So that's a little bit about, I guess, how I label myself and where I'm at right now. I don't practice as much as I would like to, certainly not as much as I would if I was back in Australia with my circle being there. I have come to a few things. I found a really good school. I'll put their name below. It's local in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland for celebrations of the Sabbath. But since having a baby, it's very difficult to get out late at night, as you can imagine. So that's a different initiation altogether. But I still practice and honour, and I'm always making sure I'm checking in on those dates, and I still have a very sacred relationship with my patron god and goddess. And again, I will go through that in another video. So that's the introduction to this series and where I'm at. What path are you on? Do you label yourself at all? Do you just go, I am awesome and that's it? I am the priestess of awesome. I'm also that too. Yeah, comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you have any requests for this series, if you wanted to know anything about paganism or Wicca or witchcraft or magic, or my experiences in them, comment below. And if you like this video and you like tarot and all things mystical, then please subscribe to my channel.